In voiceover, Chani, a young native Fremen woman, explains that the outsiders who have come to her planet of Arrakis, also known as Dune, have treated her people cruelly as they've colonized the planet for its supply of spice. A group of Fremen assault spice pickers, but they lose. Fremen had not fought back against the foreigners, hence the Emperor advised the Harkonnens and their people to go. Why did the Emperor advise them to act in such manner? The next terrible person will be whom? Paul Atreides awakens Caladan, the homeworld of the Atreides family. Lady Jessica, his blessed mother, Rebecca Ferguson, joins him for breakfast. Outsiders believe that the Bene Gesserit is a magical organization as its members are taught to acquire apparently supernatural talents and skills. Paul fails to utilize the voice, therefore she informs him learning how to do it takes years. Was he more dreamer? Lady Jessica asks questions. He lies about his fantasies about Chani. Paul studies Arrakis more thoroughly.
The Fremen share the deep desert with the giant sandworms, known to the Fremen as Shai-Hulud.
Strong sandstorms abound in a dry and hot planet. Their survival depends on the modifications the Fremen tribes bring forth. Living in the heart of the desert, the Fremen coexist with Shai-Hulud, massive sandworms. Having spent a lot of time surrounded with spices, Fremen's blue eyes result from attacks by Fremen exposed collecting spices to risk. According to the Fremen, spice is a sacred medicine with life-saving power. The Imperium uses spice to let Spacing Guild navigators locate safe paths throughout space. Spice is the most priceless substance on Earth as you cannot travel across galaxies without it. Paul and his parents, including Duke Leto, greet the Herald of the Change. Members of the Imperial Court, representatives of the Spacing Guild, and a sister of the Bene Gesserit accompany the Herald to carry instructions from the Emperor, House Atreides running Arrakis and serving as steward. Duke Leto of House Atreides concurs. Paul runs into Duncan, Idaho, the House of Atreides swordmaster. When Paul and his gang head to Arrakis, he begs Duncan to accompany them.
I'd like you to take me with you.
That's too bad, 'cause no.
Duncan says he will be tested but no. Duncan probes Paul about his visions of Arrakis, the desert, an unidentified Fremen girl, and Duncan among the Fremen. He also dreamed in which Duncan perished in combat. Duncan believes the dreams, hence he won't take Paul. Paul pays his father, Duke Leto, visits. Leto informs Paul he is the future of the house and won't allow him travel to Arrakis with Duncan. According to Leto, Paul should arrive on Arrakis and on Arrakis. Giving Arrakis to House Atreides instead of House Harkonnen, he believes the Emperor provoked conflict. Though it would damage both great houses, this struggle would benefit him. Duke Leto has dispatched an advance squad and Duncan to visit the Fremen in order to negotiate a cooperation against the Harkonnens. Paul isn't sure whether he ought to be running House Atreides. While Paul will always be his son, Duke Leto admits he had questions about himself growing up.
I want you sitting in on my council. Learn what I do.
Expert in weaponry for the House Atreides, Gurney Halleck shows Paul's sword fighting technique. Blades cannot pass through a force field wall. The screens save Paul from dying when he refuses to train, but Gurney persuades him to. Paul seems not motivated in learning. Hasu Atreides is informed by Gurney about his future. For 80 years, the Harkonnens governed Arrakis and were very rich. Now, the spice has been stolen from them. Gurney tells Paul the Harkonnen are merciless. Played by Dave Bautista, Baron Harkonnen's nephew, Beast Robin tells his uncle on Gati Prime that every ship they have fled Arrakis. The Emperor asks the Baron how they permitted the world to be stolen and handed to House Atreides. A gift is not always a gift, the Baron remarks in an odd manner. House Atreides is on rise and the Emperor is both scary and envious. Lady Jessica awakens her son on Caladan and orders him to get ready and follow. Charlotte Rampling's character, Reverend Mother Gaius Helen Mohiam, was her teacher at the Bene Gesserit school and is today the truthsayer to the Emperor. She wants to visit Paul and know about his ambitions when he is ready.
What is this?
The Reverend Mother Gaius Helen Mohiam is here. She was my teacher at the Bene Gesserit school. She's now truthsayer to the Emperor himself.
Before Paul visits the Reverend Mother, a House Atreides employee called Dr. Yue checks his vital signs. In a whisper, Dr. Yue informs Paul that although the Bene Gesserit claim they serve the greater good, they essentially just serve themselves. He issues Paul a warning. Paul then assures Lady Jessica he has a strong heart. Lady Jessica advises Paul to consider what he has learnt before accompanying him to meet the Reverend Mother. Paul's eyes exhibit disobedience, claims the Reverend Mother, much like those of his father. The Reverend Mother orders Lady Jessica to leave them by alone while she is away. Then Lady Jessica orders her son to follow the mother's advice. Though she pulls him to her and makes him kneel, Paul is enraged that the lady instructed his mother what to do. Telling Paul to place his right hand in a box, the Reverend Mother places a poison needle to his neck. Should he remove his hand off the box before she informs him, she will pierce him and kill him immediately. She informs her boyfriend that he won't allow the guards in from outside the door. Lady Jessica recite the litany against fear outside the door as he sobs in agony. I have nothing to be scared about. Anxiety removes ideas. The small death killing everything is fear. I am going to confront my phobia. Let it pass through and over me repeatedly. I'll follow its route with my inner sight once it's gone. When the dread passes, nothing remains. I will be the sole one left. Once Paul passes the exam, he can get his hand from the box. Notes his hand is good. Should he have failed to control his impulses like an animal, the Reverend Mother would have murdered him due to his too strong strength. Since he is the Duke's son, she says Lady Jessica's, which he interprets as she believes he had several privileges from birth. She phones Jessica. Dear Mother questions Paul about his aspirations. That evening he claims to have one. He stated he had given Chani, a girl from Arrakis, more thought than once. Has any of his fantasies come true? The Reverend Mother asks him. After he says no, she expects he survives. Lady Jessica asks the Reverend Mother why she had to go such far as they are departing. According to the Reverend Mother, Paul had to be placed on trial since Jessica decided to teach him the Bene Gesserit method, against their policies.
You chose to train him in the way, in defiance of our rule.
The Reverend Mother is depressed at the wasted potential of a guy. Though Jessica was advised she could only have daughters, she believes she may have a messiah figure, what the Kwisatz Haderach signifies. Should he be the selected one, the Reverend Mother notes, he still has a long road ahead. His eyes haven't even opened yet, and he goes into the fire. The Reverend Mother assures Jessica that should Paul fail, the Bene Gesserit offers alternative options. Lady Jessica learns Paul heard the Reverend Mother and her company leaving chatting. His mother disagrees with his assertion that the Bene Gesserit wrote the policies of the Imperium. The Bene Gesserit have been waiting for many years to produce the one, a mind with temporal and spatial travel capacity. Paul apologizes for saying he part of a plan since she gives it the impression he may be that person. Kaladin gets Paul and the house of Atreides to Arrakis. Let them clap for me. Paul visits the Mentat house Atreides uses, Thufir Hawat. Paul should not believe the Fremen when they greet him, Thufir advises. Mentats function and think like computers, set up for this. Paul queries his mother what the Fremen were yelling as they board an ornithopter. Lady Jessica claims the Bene Gesserit have been keeping Arrakis ready for thousands of years and that the people who dwell there have been waiting for the Lisan al-Gaib, which is their phrase for Messiah. Paul exhibits symptoms, she says. Paul claims the Fremen see just what they are instructed to perceive. Flying to sheltered Arrakeen, they are shielded from the elements and sandworms. Duke Leto discovers from looking over the city that a spice plant and a spaceport are Gurney's weak points. Gurney is advised to monitor them as, without improvement in spice and sending it off-world, they would fail. Lady Jessica speaks with numerous Fremens interested in housekeeping jobs. One woman reports receiving a knife as a present. She asks Lady Jessica what the blade is after pulling it from its sheath. She describes it as a Christ knife. Lady Jessica states the knife is a maker, a Fremen term for a sandworm, before ordering her guard to be ready for fight. Strongly reacting, the woman puts the knife aside and hands it to Jessica, proving it is a Shai-Hulud tooth. Paul arrives to see someone watering the date palms. Every tree, he claims, needs 5 men's worth of water daily.
You should be out here this hour of the day.
I don't know date palms could even be found out here.
100 life, 20 trees. Although the man claims the trees are holy, Paul wants them destroyed. Paul discovers Arrakis alone in his room. With their over 400-meter length, sandworms are the most lethal critter on Earth. Fremen traverse the desert at an unsteady speed that sounds like the noises of the desert to evade gathering sandworms. Fremen develop hardy kinds of plants, so the planet lacks many other flora. Paul then spots a little assault robot that floats and hunts Seeker coming in from a wall hole. The monster flies at Paul, then pauses before it reaches him. Paul smashes the device as a help arrives. He orders the Hunter-Seeker operator to keep near. Dead and in the wall is the murderer. For weeks he had been imprisoned in a crevice in the wall, waiting to send the Hunter-Seeker via a water pipe to murder Paul. Thufir Hawat quits after he failed to guard Paul. No, Duke Leto responds, he begs him to identify the spies among them so he can pardon them. Meeting a sister of Bene Gesserit, Baron Harkonnen and his servant Peter de Vries, he seeks the Emperor's opinion.
Activate silence.
She informs him although no one will know, the Emperor will employ the Sardaukar to assist Harkonnens' army. Harkonnen believes the Atreides will die in the dark devoid of satellites over Arrakis. The sister says Harkonnen can kill Duke Leto, but he needs to send Lady Jessica and Paul out. He claims he won't injure Paul or Jessica. The Baron orders his women not to allow her or her boy live once she leaves. The big Baron floats. Thufir Hawat informs the Duke in a strategy meeting that he has the records of the Harkonnen and that they take 10 billion Solaris from Arrakis annually. Furthermore, he claims that House Atreides won't see such riches for some time due to the Harkonnens' equipment. The group visits many spice shops devastated by Harkonnen in great numbers. According to Paul, Arrakis should be under observation and assisted in reform by a judge of reform. Thufir claims the Emperor selected the unusual imperial biologist Dr. Leto Kynes for this position. Leto wants to tour the Kynes agricultural fields for safety's sake. Duncan shows up and shares about his hunt for Fremen.
I swear you're getting taller.
Well, you smell much worse.
He stayed 4 weeks confined in a Friesan siege. One had difficulty locating Fremen. Days of watching him without his knowledge, they dispatched a warrior to murder him. Duncan discusses his nearly death experience and the Fremen fight's devilish nature. Arrakis has millions of Fremen, some of which live in subterranean caverns. This exceeds the 50,000 Harkonnen they believe to be there by much. Duncan took the Duke to Fremen leader Stilgar. Leto's guards are terrified to let Stilgar in since he won't stop his scream kingly. Leto allowed the Fremen guy in since Duncan said they guard the crysknife. He spits on Leto upon their meeting. Until Duncan explains Leto and his guard Stilgar is presenting his body's moisture as a gift, they view this as impolite. The Leto people spit back. Stilgar said they consume pepper without showing gratitude as they live in another planet. Leto claims he will assist the Fremen despite their suffering resulting from the Harkonnens. Stilgar advises them to leave the spice behind, not disturb the Fremen sieges, and keep clear of the desert. Though he will avoid the sieges, Leto cannot guarantee not to visit the desert.
The Emperor has given me Arrakis as my fief to rule and protect.
Saying this is right, Stilgar exits. Paul asks Stilgar to remain. Though Stilgar warns them he cannot remain, they realize Paul speaks their tongue. He sets off. Thufir believes their scheme is gradually working. Duncan shows them other Fremen technologies, including a paracompress that can locate itself even in the presence of interacting magnetic fields of the planets. Duncan replies he enjoys the Fremen when Gurney jokes he has gone native. They run across Dr. Leto Kynes of Duke Leto's team. Examining Leto and Paul's still suits, the lady informs them without them the heat of the Arrakis desert would kill them in 2 hours. The clothing keep the person wearing them cool and use their sweating to create drinking water. Paul's unusual suit style really strikes Dr. Kynes. He answered it seemed excellent when she inquired who taught him. Dr. Kynes speaks about Fremen. She answers Paul that she is a Fremen when he asks her whether she is. Kynes shows 3 ornithopters the areas under cultivation for crops. She displays a gathering crawler picking up ground-based spice. She shows spotter planes searching for worm sign.
You see these spotter aircraft looking for worm sign.
Worm sign?
A sand wave headed toward the crawler. Worms, she added, dwell underground but rise to battle. Attached to noise and sound, worms that target harvesters find attraction. Paul wonders why they do not cover the robots with shields. Kynes responds that shields will attract worms and initiate a desert killing frenzy. Kynes demands another ship to send a carryall to retrieve the crawler, which will continue harvesting spice until the very end, when Duke Leto spots a sand wave. For some reason the carryall cannot raise the crawler. The crawler cannot be removed, hence the crew is under risk. Leto estimates that each of the ornithopters will take 6. Kynes notes that the crawler has 21 people. Paul says, still 3 guys short. Leto promises they will find a way. Then the rest follow as he launches in his helicopter for the crawler. After landing close to the crawler, Leto orders his men to remove the shield generators for the thopter's weight and space saving. He instructs each of the 3 planes over the radio to pick 7 soldiers. Paul and the others step off the boat in the desert. The carryall expands out and flies away as the worm approaches. The crawler crew is finished. Paul drives others to his chopper, then passes out. Leto is set to fly when they discover Paul absent from the chopper. The worm is approaching. On his knees beside the crawler, Paul murmurs to himself. Gurney rouses him from slumber. They race after the helicopter, then are knocked over when the worm bursts through the top and settles the sand. Rising to see the sandworm consume the crawler, they head to the Theopteryx. Paul apologizes when Duke Leto advises him not to venture such chances at the base. Leto then tells Kynes that the Harkonnens left them with damaged tools, but Kynes claims the carrier was merely old. She tells him individuals like him have come and gone and she is not on his side. She exhorts him to protect his family. Dr. Yue examines Paul. Paul is sensitive but will be alright. According to Yue, spice is a substance that causes euphoria. Dr. Yue is departing. Paul reports to his mother he observes something rather than an allergic response. Jessica inquires about his observations.
You can see.
Dreaming, he has seen Chani. He claims the image was blurry, he saw himself dying, but it was not genuine, hence a knife was rather crucial. Though he doesn't know when or where it will happen, he is convinced someone will hand him a knife. Jessica is surprised to learn he knows she is pregnant. She recently discovered she is pregnant, hence he cannot know. Sardaukar are preparing to depart Seleucia Secundus, a hostile imperial planet. Peter de Vries accompanies a Sardaukar combatant who informs him the count of Sardaukars exceeds that of Atreides. According to de Vries, among the best trained guards in the Imperium are those of Atreides. The fighter believes that those rivals should perish as the Sardaukar are superior than their adversaries. Duke Leto and Lady Jessica converse. He will not pay attention to what she says regarding Paul. Paul has been occupied, he adds, since Jessica brought the Reverend Mother to see him. Should something happen, will she check for their son? Leto says he wants her to be a Bene Gesserit, not a mother, even though she promises him she will guard him with her life.
Will you protect Paul?
Why do he view this? He expected they would have more time. Dr. Yue hands Paul a drink in his room and bids him good night. They coexist in their bedroom. You ought to have wed her, he says. Though not married, their son is theirs. Later, someone drops the base's defenses by shooting guards before entering a chamber. Duke Leto encounters problems when he wakes up, wanders the hallways. When Leto calls for assistance upon witnessing someone fall, none responds. His body shield falls off. Turning over the figure reveals a servant lady with a knife embedded in her chest. Leto's protection lets a poison dart from the darkness knock him out. The weird man is Dr. Yue. When Gurney wakes up he discovers the shields have dropped. After seeing a massive enemy ship in the heavens, he urges the Atreides to raise their ships outside. Explosions follow from enemy soldiers bombing the base and anti-aircraft gun firing. Opposing cargo ships allow soldiers to land. They are fighting closely with Gurney and his troops. Sardaukar kills the Atreides troops elsewhere while encircling them. When Leto wakes up he finds he cannot move. The Harkonnens have their wife locked up, hence Dr. Yue informs him he has a contract with the Baron to turn over Leto. Saying he will give it to Paul and assist the child, Yue removes Leto's ducal ring. Yue presents Leto with an artificial tooth. If Leto consumes it, he claims, it will produce hazardous gas. Should Leto and Baron Harkonnen choose the correct moment, it will kill them. Outside, Harkonnens' men murder Atreides hostages. Duncan Idaho finds some of his foes within close reach. Paul and Lady Jessica were captured by Chopper during the Anarchy. The abductors consider murder of their victims. Duncan kills some enemy men before pilfers a chopper. The Harkonnen men lament not having a highborn and claim they sexually assaulted Lady Jessica on the plane carrying inmates. One of them strikes Paul for telling them not to touch his mother. Lady Jessica tells Paul he's not ready, but Paul gets one of the boys to remove his mother's gag using the voice. When that doesn't work, the guy advises him to stop. The Harkonnen men decided it's time to leave Paul behind after spending some time in the desert. One of the guys is getting ready to do it when Paul orders him via the voice to remove Lady Jessica's gag. This time the guy releases the gag. Before Lady Jessica releases her, she orders him to assassinate a Harkonnen guard with the voice. 1/3 soldier slain tries to halt Lady Jessica with the voice. After wiping off the last guard, she releases Paul. The helicopter lands, but from distance the Harkonnens switch it off. Paul and his mother climb a sandhill to view the city ablaze. Duke Leto wakes up under Baron Harkonnens and a few guards' restraint. The Baron consumes rather a lot. Opening a Freem kit they discovered on the desert helicopter, Paul and Lady Jessica. Dr. Yue notes in it that the Freem exhibits an Atreides signal. Dr. Yue teams with Baron and Duke Leto. Yue claims he destroyed the shields of the Atreides and damaged their signals. Their bargain, he informs the Baron, asks for Yue's wife to be free. Approaching Dr. Yue, the Baron informs him he will liberate his wife and allow him accompany her. Harkonnen tells the Duke that his family and house have been destroyed before murdering Dr. Yue, so join her. Leto sounds to be chatting when Paul discovers his dad's ducal ring and Fremen kit. Baron raises his shield and stoops forward to listen. Leto shoots forth a cloud of poison gas, killing several Harkonnen troops when he consumes the phony tooth before the remaining few seal the chamber. Dr. Kynes notes Duncan Idaho leaving his chopper and landing it. She knew that was going to happen, hence he gets enraged. She claims she needs to communicate but finds nothing. Arrakis saw House Atreides executed, according to Duncan. Men equipped in safety gear enter Duke Leto's poison gas chamber. The Baron still resides today. Paul and his mother duck into a Fremen kit tent in the desert. Paul visits Chani once again. The Fremen girl witnesses Paul battle on TV sporting a full body costume. What else? The woman Jessica asks him, does he see in the dream? Telling her he sees a holy war spreading across the universe like an unquenchable fire, he gets enraged. This is a theological struggle in the name of Atreides and Paul. When Lady Jessica attempts to cool him down, he exclaims that the Bene Gesserit created him a monster. Knowing his dad is deceased, he advises her she should hug him. They bide their time for the Atreides signal to sound normal. Together they walk from the sand-covered tent. Paul witnesses a running away desert mouse. He guides his mother toward ground level from the pit. A helicopter roars over and drops just then. Duncan follows the direction of the light. Flying for the doctor. Duncan tells them that with assistance from the Sardaukar, Kynes is also on board. The Harkonnens hit all of the population centers of the planet simultaneously. This shows, Lady Jessica believes, that the Emperor supports the Harkonnens. Inquired about it is Kynes, the change judge. Kynes claims she cannot communicate, but Paul assures her she risked her life to be of use to them. They have to hide when a sandstorm arises when they arrive there. Environmental testing used to take place there formerly. Arrakis' inhospitable surroundings were supposed to be tamed, and the water under the dunes was meant to have been released long ago. Arrakis soon began to have spices, and nobody wanted the desert to go. Paul informs Dr. Kynes that, like the Atreides were, the great houses are terrified the Sardaukar will slaughter them one by one. Together was their only way to challenge the Imperium. He asks Kynes to declare that the Emperor mistreated House Atreides, but she argues that even if people believed her, all the great houses would attack the Emperor. Lady Jessica concurs and notes that awful things will follow. Kynes doesn't think Paul's wish to wed one of the Emperor's offspring is realistic. The Emperor wanted to assassinate Paul, hence he hides in a hole. Paul claims the Lisan al-Gaib will bring the Fremen to paradise. Kynes claims this is ridiculous, but Paul tells her facts about herself he doesn't know and reports he witnessed her dream. All he would have to do, he argues, if he were Emperor, is wave his hand and render Arrakis a paradise. Soldiers descend the station when the enemy finds it. They begin their conflict with Fremen guards. In the room where Paul and Lady Jessica are chatting to Kynes, Duncan can hear fighting ongoing. He gets his sword and finds a fight raging in the hall opening the door. He salutations Paul as the hall door closes. Paul would like to follow, but the door is locked. Though he is valiant, Duncan falls from overwhelm. Kynes instructs Paul and Lady Jessica to check her rear door. Laser weapons fired by soldiers on the opposite side through the locked door strike people inside trying to evade them. In the hall he is wounded but alive. He strikes the troops before he dies, allowing his buddies to flee. Kynes advises Paul and Jessica to get a thopter, fly into the storm, and rise above it so that it's just dust. They ought therefore to head south in search of the Fremen. She wants to locate another station to inform the Landsraad, composed of all the great houses, of the Sardaukar attack since the chopper can only accommodate 2 persons. Paul and Lady Jessica fly out in a little helicopter. Dr. Kynes falls on the ground. Striking the ground draws in sandworms. She intends to catch the sandworm with 2 hooks she owns. Sardaukar men stab Kynes in the back as the worm approaches near. Kynes bangs is on the ground while soldiers are ready to murder her. The sandworm devours all of them from underneath. Enemy jets are tracking Paul and Lady Jessica across the desert. Although weapons are pointed at them, Paul flies into the maelstrom. The rockets miss and detonate harmlessly even though they aim at their target. Jessica shouts the litany against fear as the storm destroys their chopper. Beast Robin visits his cousin Baron Harkonnen. They tried to capture Paul and Jessica, he says the Baron, but lost sight of them in the dust. Tells his uncle they have to be dead as nothing could withstand a storm this strong. The Baron orders Robin to sell the spice shops to Gadi Prime. Their Arrakis invasion requires money, so they do not want the price to drop. The Baron orders Robin to wipe off all the Fremen. In their broken down jet, Paul and Jessica flee the elements. When the wings fall off, they smash. They sprint outdoors to pick pebbles. On the rocks, they don still suits. Sandworms exist. Their search turned for Fremen among the rocks. Paul visits Chani once again following their rest. She advises him in the vision on handling his difficulties. In his dream, he encounters another Freeman advising him he still has much to learn. Seeking Duncan's drawing, Paul and Jessica search a paracompress. Jessica could see the grass in the distance, hence Paul believes the Freemen reside there. Paul advises them to cross the dunes contaminated with worms late at night. To escape worms, he tells her about the sand walk the Freemen do in the desert. They headed out. Tired, they are sitting on a beach and notice a sand wave. Worms are around. They endure on. That's great until they walk on drum sand, which creates a lot of noise. A worm arrives and runs. The enormous sandworm emerges from the ground as they watch. Someone triggers a thumper, which distracts the sandworm from Paul and his mother. Jessica improves as they ascend the adjacent rocks. Paul remarks the worm was called away. Tell Jessica, he says, he believes they are not alone. They are surrounded with Freemen, they know. Stilgar advises them against running as it would squander their water. Paul informs Stilgar they have past meeting experience. Paul is the child Stilgar tells his followers he discussed. Nobody can touch him. They doubt his capacity to be Lisan al-Gaib. And the Freeman man Jamis notes the child seems feeble. Stilgar claims, nonetheless, that they crossed valiantly and Paul did not act or speak weak. Paul is not the one, he adds, and only his thumper kept him alive. Lady Jessica is too elderly to learn, Stilgar remarks. Paul is youthful and able to accomplish it. Freeman assault. Having a brief argument, she clutches Stilgar's throat with a knife. Paul brings out a Maula pistol. The Freemen disappear. Lady Jessica frees Stilgar by chopping off his throat with the sword. Stilgar wants to know why Jessica omitted to inform them she was a warrior and a weird woman. Stilgar advises them to travel to his hometown of Sietch-Tabar as daybreak is approaching. Paul and Jessica's destiny will be determined here, but he will keep them safe till then. A voice behind Paul orders him not to harm her pals. Turning around, he finds Chani, the girl he is looking for. Though some believe he is the Mahdi, the biblical personification of the Messiah, she sees him as a young man. Paul and Chani also attend. Requesting Paul's Maula rifle, Stilgar promises to return it once he has earned it. Paul hands someone else the gun. Jamis wants no outsiders brought in. Stilgar claims they had discussed it. Jamis believes Stilgar presents a boss-like style of leadership, the ideal type. Jamis dares Lady Jessica to a fight once she beats Stilgar. Jamis wants to find someone to face a Sayedina as Stilgar claims Jamis cannot fight one. Jamis should not do it, Stilgar advises. Paul shows up as Jamis yells out for her champion. Paul sees another vision of a woman telling him he has to die so Kwisatz Haderach may come forth. They are getting ready for war. Chani tells Paul she doesn't think he is Lisan al-Gaib and wants him to die in a decent manner. The voice responds, he shouldn't be afraid because taking a life takes yours. He steals from her great Antichrist Skive. Paul realized it was the knife he had seen in his vision. Chani thinks holding it till death will be an honor. In front of the Freeman and Lady Jessica, Paul and Jamis begin fighting. May my knife break and chip, Jamis says, and Paul salutes him the way Duncan Idaho did before his final battle. Two men engage in combat. Paul soon gains ahead by asking Jamis to surrender up and placing his blade to his throat. Styler claims they have to perish as one of them cannot give up. Jamis struggles back fiercely, but Paul repeatedly stabs him in the neck without killing him. When Stilgar asks Jessica whether her son is hanging around with the other lad, she replies Paul has never killed anybody. Jamie trips Paul down. When Paul rises, Jamis attacks and Paul murders him. Paul is among them now, Stilgar says. Paul should be leaving Earth, she adds. According to Paul, his dad traveled to Arrakis in search of Freeman power rather than riches or spices. He claims the Freeman will show up should he bring them to the desert. The gang moves Jamis's body into the desert. Paul and Jessica stop to study a Freeman hook board a sandworm. Chani tells Paul this is only starting point. They go on. In the next part of Dune, we see Florence Pugh's Princess Irulan Carino, daughter of Emperor Shaddam IV, pens in her notebook about the recent Harkonnen raid on House Atreides. Given the Emperor regarded Duke Leto Atreides as a son, she finds it perplexing that her father would order the Atreides dynasty to be exterminated. She still argues, though, that not all of them have truly died. Then Irulan muses on how the collapse of House Atreides would impact Arrakis. All Atreides and Lady Jessica, who is pregnant, are driven to hide with the warriors from the Harkonnen scouts while the Freemen keep on their path to Sietch-Tabar across the desert. Javier Bardem Stilgar commands his troops to evade the scouts before killing them with their own weaponry. The Freemen will offer Shai Hulud their remains for food after the scouts have been eliminated. When Paul and Jessica arrive, many of the Freemen at the siege view them as spies, others hold Paul accountable for the death of Jamis in great respect. Stilgar tries to convince a council that the Freemen need help and that they, too, can supply it. Stilgar informs Jessica privately that their Reverend Mother is critically sick and wants her to cover for her. The Reverend Mother Ramayo and the other Bene Gesserit tell Jessica to drink the water of life, a lethal toxin men cannot survive. When the other Bene Gesserit find out too late that Jessica is pregnant and Jessica begins to convulsing after drinking it, they are scared. Eventually Jessica recovers from the poison and starts receiving messages from her ancestors. Her daughter starts talking with her too. In their talks, they want to first convince individuals they consider as susceptible in northern Arrakis to accept the prophecy. Paul tries to get Suhelia Yakub Shishakli closer as Zendaya's Chani talks about the accuracy of the prophecy. Later on, the Fremen attack a Harkonnen scout tank. An ornithopter flies about and starts fire once the warriors have rid the scouts. Paul helps Chani to break through the protection of the ornithopter and discover a means of escape. Paul tells Stilgar and the other Fremen he could care less if they identify him as the Lisan al-Gaib. All he wants is to fight by their side as the Fremen retrieve water from the fallen scouts. They therefore learn to put up with him and maybe value him more.
Paul Muad'Dib Usul.
Paul and Chani then enjoy the view as they perch on a hill and see the spice flow over the beach. When their feelings for one another become stronger, the two at last yield and kiss. Following some time, Paul starts spending more time training with the Fremen, finally joining Chani as a Feyd-Rautha warrior. After the kangaroo mice living in the desert, he adopts the name Muad'Dib Usul, a renowned Fremen fighter, as he obtains favor of the tribe. With distressing nightmares, he follows a mysterious figure, later revealed to be Jessica, south, and the scene is covered with dead bodies from the holy war he imagines will break out should he adopt the role of Lisan al-Gaib. Paul continues on to ride a sandworm, a major Fremen exam. He heads to a lower level of the sands while the Fremen gather to see. He lays the trap designed to summon forth Shai Hulud. Paul waits patiently for the worm to pass over a hill, then he leaps. After some work, Paul attaches himself onto the sandworm and rides it among the joyful screams of the Fremen. Jessica then sets off a trip to the southern Arrakis area to tell the fundamentalists the prediction. She begs Paul to accompany her, but he believes they are misleading the people and that if she does, his dreams will come true. Stellan Skarsgård's Baron Vladimir Harkonnen left home on Gedi Prime. Austin Butler's character Feyd-Rautha is the younger nephew of Dave Bautista's Robin. He pays his homage during a family-honoring celebration. There also include fellow Bene Gesserit the Reverend Mother Mohiam and Lady Margot Fenring. Along with a sizable gathering, they all proceed to witness Feyd square off against 3 House of Atreides members in a tournament. Feyd sends the 2 drugged ones readily, but the third one battles the young Harkonnen and finishes the man's life with a knife. Feyd's fury at the Baron for revealing this knowledge is tempered by Robin's appointment of Feyd King of Arrakis following his inability to manage the Fremen and preserve spice output. Many legends about Muad'Dib are circulating about Arrakis, and Mohiam and Margot start to question Paul's survival. Margot tracks Feyd-Rautha down and takes him away.
Tell me, something wrong?
I don't recognize this place.
This is the guest wing.
She passes him the same Bene Gesserit test that Mohiam gave Paul, and despite his first misgivings she manages to captivate him. Margot tells Mohiam she is indeed Feyd's daughter after visiting him. Irulan still finds much mystery over the attack on House Atreides. She talks one-on-one with Mohiam, who understands the strike was necessary and the Emperor was behind it. Arriving on Arrakis is a group of smugglers. The Fremen start retaliating when Paul finds Gurney Halleck among their count. Paul tells the Fremen of the smugglers while they tenderly hold one another. Gurney spoke of how he survived the attack and subsequently joined Paul and the others. Thinking Paul, Chani, and Stilgar have little chance against the Harkonnens, Gurney brings them to the nuclear weapon stash in the House of Atreides. Under Feyd-Rautha's direction, many Fremen are slain and others are compelled to hide when Harkonnen's army attacks the siege to Bar. When Shishakli refuses to talk after being discovered, Feyd burns her. Though Paul is hesitant, the surviving head south. Paul visits the same temple Jessica had visited in quest of the source of the water of life, derived from a baby sandworm. Paul ignores Chani's cautions and downs it, then passes out. Like Jessica, he has other dreams, one in which Alia his sister is talking to him. Everyone joins in to save Paul. Someone informs Chani she might be able to revive him with tears from a desert spring. Chani cleans her tears and combines them with the water of life before bringing the combination to Paul's lips. He talks with Jessica privately after he wakes up. Unknown to Jessica, he recently found out she is indeed the Baron's daughter, so they both belong to Harkonnens. Now regarded as the Kwisatz Haderach, Paul is a man with identical skills as the Bene Gesserit who has drank the water of life. Several notable freemen gather at the temple to talk about Paul's elevation. Paul defies their requests and makes a spectacular declaration claiming his identity as the Lisan al-Gaib. He is ready to meet Stilgar provided the opportunity. Chani argues that the prediction has kept the freemen slaves. Every freeman will instantly view Paul as their rescuer. The victorious return of the Emperor Irulan and the Harkonnen Sardaukar troops drives the freemen to at last face the Harkonnens.
When the storm hits this ridge, Gurney will open the way for you, Stilgar, so you can enter the basin from the west.
The Emperor opposes the Harkonnens and has his suspensor belts taken off in an attempt to render the Baron immobile and unable. Paul's plan calls for the warheads to be fired as the next phase of attack into Arraki's defenses. Mounting the sandworms, the Freeman fighters then demolish a good chunk of the hostile force. Paul approaches the Baron, calling him grandfather, shocking him before he stabs him in the neck and murders him while the Baron makes one more, desperate leap for the Emperor's throne. The surviving Sardaukar begin to flee outdoors, but Gurney follows Robin and challenges him to a rematch. Their brief battle ends when Gurney swords Robin across the breast. Paul is preparing to confront the Emperor in payback for his part in the killing of his father. Chani obviously suffers, but he threatens to cut off the spice supply until the Emperor subserves and allows Paul wed Irulan. The Emperor names Feyd-Rautha as his champion. Feyd pierces Paul in the side during a heat of fight, but Paul gains the upper hand and stabs Feyd to death in the chest. Paul's friend assures him he fought valiantly right up until he passed out. Irulan steps in to comply with Paul's requirement of marrying the Emperor just as Paul is ready to leave.
The life debt has been paid. Spare my father now and I will be your willing bride. The throne will be yours.
Just before Paul resigns, the Emperor tells him he ordered Leto to be killed because of emotional reasons. Chani goes out as Paul takes Irulan's hand with sorrowful heart. Paul then finds out not all of the great houses have praised his achievement. He orders the Freeman army to advance so they may send them to paradise. Stilgar, Gurney, and countless others agree and keep on. Jessica tells Aelia the Holy War has begun in their last talk. Chani sets off into the desert at the conclusion of the movie in search of a sandworm to ride into the future.